The salvage ship Fortune Seeker drifted silently through the darkness of the Kuiper Belt, its sensors scanning the endless void for anything worth collecting. Captain Jack Miller stood at the bridge window, his weathered face illuminated by the dim glow of distant stars. 20 years of salvage work had taught him that patience was the key to finding treasure. "Captain, you need to see this." The voice of his sensor operator, Pete, broke the quiet of the bridge. "Got something big on long-range scanners. Really big." Miller walked over to Pete's station, his boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. The scanner showed an object nearly 3 times the size of their ship, moving in a lazy spiral through space. "Natural or artificial?" Miller asked, though he already suspected the answer. Natural objects didn't usually move in spirals. "Definitely artificial, sir." "And?" Pete paused, adjusting his instruments. "It's not human-made. The design is like nothing in our database." Miller's heart began to race. First contact with alien technology could make them all rich, or get them all killed. He had to make a choice. "Call the crew to stations," he ordered. "Tom, bring us in closer, but keep our distance until we know what we're dealing with." The Fortune Seeker's engines hummed to life, pushing the ship toward the mysterious object. As they got closer, the ship's external lights revealed a sight that made everyone on the bridge gasp. The alien vessel was beautiful. Its hull looked like flowing silver, with shapes that seemed impossible for metal to make. But what caught Miller's attention were the markings along its side. Definitely writing, but in no language he had ever seen. "Tom, take us around it slowly. Look for any signs of damage or danger," Miller commanded. The Fortune Seeker circled the alien ship like a cautious animal, its lights revealing more details with each pass. "No signs of battle damage," reported Lisa from Weapons Control. "But look at those engine ports. They're cold. This thing's been powered down for a while." Miller nodded. "Any radiation? Dangerous materials?" "Nothing dangerous," Pete confirmed. "Actually, the whole ship seems perfectly fine. Just abandoned." That made no sense. Who would abandon a perfectly good spaceship, especially one this advanced? Miller had salvaged enough ships to know that vessels were usually abandoned for good reasons: damage, disease, or disaster. "Sir," Pete's voice rose with excitement, "I'm picking up some kind of data transmission. It's weak, but it's there. Looks like a disposal notice." "A what?" Miller moved closer to look at Pete's screen. "It's broadcasting on repeat. The computer's trying to translate it, but from what I can tell, this ship was deliberately abandoned. The original owners marked it as trash." Miller couldn't believe what he was hearing. "They threw it away? A working spaceship?" "The notice keeps using words like inefficient and below standard," Pete explained. "Looks like whoever built this thing decided it wasn't good enough and just left it here." Miller looked back at the magnificent vessel floating outside their window. "One man's trash is another man's treasure." That had always been the salvager's motto. But this was beyond anything he'd imagined. "Get me United Space Command," he ordered. "And someone wake up Tom Richards in engineering. He's going to want to see this." As the crew rushed to follow his orders, Miller kept staring at the alien ship. He could already imagine the possibilities. If they could understand even a fraction of its technology, humanity could leap forward by decades, maybe centuries. "Send out the drones," he commanded. "I want detailed scans of every inch of that ship. And get the boarding team ready. We're going to need full containment protocols." The Fortune Seeker's crew moved with excited efficiency, preparing for what could be the most important salvage operation in human history. None of them knew it yet, but they had just stumbled upon something that would change humanity's future forever. Outside in the cold darkness of space, the alien ship continued its slow spiral, waiting to reveal its secrets to its new owners. The meeting room at United Space Command headquarters was packed with officials, scientists, and military officers. At the front of the room, Captain Miller and his chief engineer, Tom Richards, stood before a large screen showing images of their alien discovery. "So let me get this straight," Admiral James Baker said, his voice heavy with doubt. "You want us to invest millions in studying what amounts to alien garbage?" Tom Richards stepped forward, his eyes bright with excitement, despite not sleeping for 3 days straight. He'd been studying the initial scans nonstop since they found the ship. "Sir, with all respect, calling this garbage is like calling the Mona Lisa a doodle," Richards said, pressing a button to change the display. "Look at this power core reading. Even in its dormant state, it's producing more energy than our best reactors at full capacity." The room filled with murmurs as the scientists studied the numbers. Admiral Baker leaned forward, his interest finally caught. "If the ship is so advanced, why did they abandon it?" asked Dr. Wilson, the head of Space Command's Research Division. Miller stepped up beside Richards. "The alien disposal notice we translated suggests they were trying to achieve faster-than-light travel. When the ship couldn't do it, they marked it as defective and abandoned it." "They gave up because it couldn't do the impossible?" Dr. Wilson asked, raising an eyebrow. "These aliens seem to have a very different way of thinking," Richards explained, switching to another image. "Their technology is incredible, but they appear to throw away anything that doesn't meet their exact specifications. This ship's power core operates at what they labeled a mere 300% efficiency." The scientists in the room started talking all at once. Admiral Baker had to raise his voice to be heard. 300% efficiency compared to what? "Compared to our best current technology, sir," Richards said. "What they considered a failure is still 3 times better than anything we've ever built." The Admiral sat back, stroking his chin. "And you think you can get it working?" "We already have some systems online," Miller said. "My team managed to power up the main computer core. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Some kind of crystal-based processing system. Richards thinks we can adapt our technology to work with it." "The aliens wanted perfection," Richards added. "But we humans have always been good at making things work with what we have. Give me 6 months and a good team, and I'll show you what this garbage can really do." Admiral Baker looked around the room, gauging the reactions of his advisors. Most of the scientists were nodding eagerly, already imagining the possibilities. "The Budget Committee won't like this," Baker said finally. "But I'd like even less to explain why we let a working alien ship slip through our fingers." He stood up. "Captain Miller, your salvage rights are confirmed. Mr. Richards, you'll have your team and your 6 months." The meeting broke up into excited discussions. As people filed out, Dr. Wilson approached Richards with a worried look. "You know this won't be easy," she said. "We're talking about technology far beyond our understanding. The differences in how it works, how it's built. It's not just advanced, it's alien in every sense of the word." Richards smiled, pulling out a tablet that showed his initial sketches for adapting human technology to work with the alien systems. "That's exactly why we'll succeed where they failed," he said. "They were looking for perfection. We're looking for possibilities. Sometimes the best solutions come from working with what others think is broken." Back on the Fortune Seeker, the alien ship now sat secured in the larger cargo hold. Its silver hull gleamed under the work lights as teams of technicians began the careful process of studying every inch of its structure. Miller stood watching from an observation window, remembering all the strange salvage jobs he'd done over the years. This one would be different. This one would change everything. "Well," he muttered to himself, "time to show these aliens what humans can do with a little junk." The research facility buzzed with activity as engineers and scientists worked around the clock studying the alien vessel. Tom Richards sat in his makeshift office, surrounded by holographic displays showing different sections of the ship's systems. After 3 weeks of non-stop work, patterns were finally emerging. "Look at this," he said to Miller, who had stopped by for their daily update. Richards pointed to a complex diagram of energy flows. "Every system in the ship is designed to work at exactly 100% efficiency. Not 99%, not 101%. Exactly 100%. Miller leaned closer, squinting at the display. That doesn't sound like a bad thing. It's not. In theory, Richards replied, bringing up another display. But here's the problem. The aliens built everything to such exact specifications that if any part performs even slightly differently than expected, they consider the whole system failed. The door opened, and Dr. Mary Foster, their lead systems analyst, walked in carrying a stack of data tablets. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she was smiling. "We cracked another section of their computer logs," she announced. "You won't believe what we found." She set down her tablets and pulled up a new display. They didn't just abandon this ship because it couldn't achieve FTL travel. They abandoned it because it was producing excess energy. Excess energy? Miller asked. How is that a problem? Foster brought up a translated section of alien text. According to their logs, the power core was generating 3% more energy than their calculations predicted. Instead of adapting their systems to use this extra power, they marked the whole ship as defective. Richards laughed, though there wasn't much humor in it. They're like the ultimate perfectionists. Anything that doesn't match their exact predictions gets thrown away. Miller walked around the holographic displays, studying the flowing lines of energy and data. So they abandoned a perfectly good ship because it worked better than expected. Exactly, Foster said. Their culture seems to value absolute precision above everything else. They don't adapt, they don't improvise. If something doesn't fit their predetermined parameters, they start over from scratch. Richards stood up and walked to a window overlooking the alien ship in the hangar below. That's why they'll never achieve faster-than-light travel, he said quietly. They're so focused on finding the perfect solution that they can't see the possibilities in front of them. What do you mean? Miller asked, joining him at the window. Look at human history, Richards explained. Every major breakthrough we've ever had came from working with what we had, making mistakes, finding unexpected connections. We turned the accidental discovery of penicillin into modern medicine. We learned to fly by studying birds and building imperfect machines until we got it right. Foster nodded, adding, These aliens, they're brilliant engineers. Their technology is incredible. But they have no creativity, no ability to see potential in imperfection. Miller watched as teams of human engineers moved around the alien ship below, attaching their own devices to its systems, running tests, trying new configurations. Each one was breaking dozens of the original aliens' protocols, but each was also discovering new possibilities. So what you're saying, Miller said slowly, is that their garbage might be our greatest treasure, specifically because we don't care about perfection. Exactly, Richards replied, his eyes lighting up. They built this ship to do one thing perfectly, but we can see it could do 100 things differently. That excess energy they were so worried about. I've got ideas about how we could use it. Foster pulled up another display, this one showing power flow simulations. We've already identified 3 ways to channel the extra energy that the aliens never considered. It's not perfect, but it works, Richards finished. And that's what humans do best. We make things work. Down in the hangar, the alien ship sat silently as humans swarmed around and through it, adding their own imperfect but effective solutions to its perfect systems. With each modification, each adaptation, it was becoming something new, something neither species had imagined alone. The perfect ship was about to become perfectly human. The hangar echoed with the sounds of welding and machinery as the engineering team worked on their latest modifications. Tom Richards stood on a platform near the alien ship's power core, directing a complex operation that would have made the original builders cringe. Careful with that connection, he called out to the technicians below. We want to catch that energy bleed, not block it. They were installing human-designed circuits that could capture and redirect the power that the aliens had considered waste. The ship's crystal core pulsed with a soft blue light, its perfect geometry now surrounded by what looked like a chaotic web of human technology. To an outside observer, it might have seemed like they were defacing a masterpiece. But Richards knew better. "Power readings are holding steady," reported Bill, their lead power systems engineer. He monitored a bank of screens showing energy flows throughout the modified systems. "The hybrid circuits are actually improving efficiency by 12%. Richards nodded, making adjustments to his own control panel. "That's because we're not fighting the core's natural behavior anymore. We're working with it, using what it wants to give us." Across the hangar, another team was tackling an even bigger challenge. They had discovered that the alien computer systems, built around crystalline processors, operated on principles completely different from Earth's digital technology. Most engineers would have seen this as an insurmountable obstacle. The human team saw it as an opportunity. "It's like teaching two different languages to talk to each other," explained Linda, their computer systems expert. She had spent weeks developing an interface that could translate between human binary code and the alien crystal's quantum states. "We don't need to make them the same. We just need them to understand each other." The team had replaced several of the alien control panels with hybrid interfaces, screens that could display information in both human and alien formats. It wasn't elegant by the original builder's standards, but it worked. "Got another power spike," Bill called out suddenly. The crystal core flared brighter, sending excess energy through the new circuits. Instead of shutting down, as the alien systems would have done, the human modifications absorbed the surge, channeling it into secondary systems. The lights throughout the ship flickered briefly, then stabilized at a higher intensity. "Beautiful," Richards murmured, watching the energy readings settle into a new pattern. "The core's actually adapting to our modifications. It's learning to work with us." Captain Miller entered the hangar, ducking under a tangle of cables that definitely hadn't been part of the original design. "How's it coming?" he asked, looking up at Richards. "Better than we hoped," Richards replied, climbing down from his platform. "The alien technology isn't fighting us anymore. It's like we've freed it from having to be perfect all the time." Miller walked along the ship's hull, where teams were installing new sensor arrays that combined alien quantum detection with human processing systems. "And all these modifications, they're stable." "More than stable," Linda chimed in, looking up from her work. "The hybrid systems are actually more resilient than either pure human or pure alien tech. They can adapt to changes that would have caused the original systems to shut down." Richards led Miller to a newly installed observation room, where they could see the entire project at once. The alien ship no longer looked pristine and perfect. It was covered in human additions, trailing cables and new components, its silver hull now marked with Earth manufacturing stamps alongside the alien script. "It's not pretty," Miller admitted, "but I've never seen anything work so well." Richards smiled, watching his team continue their work. "That's humanity's real strength, isn't it? We don't need things to be pretty. We don't need them to be perfect. We just need them to work." Below them, the ship hummed with a new kind of energy. Not the pure, controlled power the aliens had designed, but something more dynamic, more alive. It was becoming a true hybrid, combining the best of both worlds in ways its original builders had never imagined. "We're not just fixing their ship," Richards said quietly. "We're showing them a whole new way to think about technology." No one was quite sure who first noticed it. The alien ship's hybrid systems had been running tests for months, each experiment teaching them something new about how human and alien technology could work together. But this was different. "Look at these readings," Richards said, pointing to a display that showed energy patterns around the ship. The entire research team had gathered in the control room after his urgent call. "See this ripple in spacetime? It's exactly what the aliens were trying to achieve, but they were going about it all wrong." Dr. Foster leaned forward, her eyes widening as she studied the data. "That's impossible. The energy shouldn't be able to affect spacetime like this." "Not according to their calculations," Richards agreed. "But they never considered using the power core's excess energy this way. They were so focused on containing it that they missed its real potential." The ship's modified systems had revealed something extraordinary. The waste energy that the aliens had tried to eliminate was actually creating microscopic distortions in spacetime. By themselves, these distortions were useless, which was why the aliens had dismissed them. But the human modifications had accidentally amplified the effect. "Watch this," Richard said, adjusting several controls. The hybrid circuits channeled more power into the effect, and the readings spiked dramatically. Through the control room's windows, they could see the space around the ship beginning to shimmer. Captain Miller, who had been quietly watching, finally spoke up. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Richards nodded slowly. "We can't achieve faster-than-light travel the way they were trying to, but we might be able to do something even better. We're not pushing through space. We're creating a stable point where space itself can be folded." The team worked through the night, refining their accidental discovery. What the aliens had considered a flaw, the power core's tendency to produce excess energy, turned out to be the key they needed. The human modifications allowed them to harness and focus this energy in ways the original builders had never considered. "It's like they built the perfect musical instrument," Linda explained to Miller, "but they only wanted to play one note perfectly. We're using all the notes, even the ones they thought were wrong." By morning, they were ready for their first real test. The ship, now more human than alien in many ways, hummed with power. The crystal core pulsed with intense light as the hybrid systems channeled its energy in new patterns. "Initiating spacetime anchor sequence," Richards announced. His fingers flew over the controls, a mixture of alien crystal interfaces and human touchscreens. Power at 85% and holding steady. Everyone held their breath as the ship's sensors recorded what happened next. The space around them began to twist, not in the violent way the aliens had attempted, but in a controlled spiral that centered on a point just ahead of the ship. "It's working," Dr. Foster whispered, staring at her readings. "The anchor point is stable. We've actually done it." Where the aliens had tried to break through space-time with brute force, the human modifications allowed them to work with its natural properties. The waste energy, properly channeled, created a stable point around which space could be warped. "Send out the test probe," Richards ordered. A small drone launched from the ship, carrying instruments to measure what they'd achieved. As it approached the distortion in space, its signal suddenly jumped. "Probe readings coming in," Linda called out. It's reporting its position as being 3 light-years away from here. The anchor point is holding." The control room erupted in cheers. They had done it, not by achieving the impossible goal of faster-than-light travel, but by finding a completely different solution that worked with what they had. Richards looked out at their creation. The beautiful alien ship now covered in human modifications, its perfect systems working in harmony with imperfect human innovation. They had turned discarded waste into a breakthrough that would change humanity's future forever. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "the best solutions come from the parts other people throw away." The ship's crystal core pulsed steadily, its energy flowing through human circuits, creating a bridge across the stars that its original builders had never imagined possible. The alarm sounded throughout the research facility without warning. At first, everyone thought something had gone wrong with their modified ship. Then they saw the readings. "We've got an incoming vessel," Bill announced from his monitoring station. "Big one. And it's using technology similar to our salvaged ship." Richards and Miller exchanged looks. After 6 months of working with alien technology, they were about to meet its creators. The massive ship appeared suddenly in high orbit, its design a perfect, untarnished version of their modified vessel. "They're sending a transmission," Linda reported, her hands moving quickly over the hybrid control panel. "The universal translator is, yes, it's the same language as the disposal notice." A voice filled the control room, speaking through the translator in flat, precise tones. "This is Oversight Vessel 847. You have activated restricted technology. Prepare for inspection." Miller straightened his uniform. "Send them our coordinates and landing protocols." Let's show them what we've done with their garbage. The alien ship landed with perfect precision in the larger hangar next to their modified vessel. The contrast between the two couldn't have been more striking. One pristine and geometrically perfect, the other a working hybrid of two civilizations' technologies. The alien delegation emerged from their ship, tall, silvery beings whose movements were as precise as their technology. Their leader stepped forward, its metallic features showing what might have been distaste at the modified ship. "You have corrupted, discarded technology," it stated. This unit was determined to be inefficient and marked for disposal. "Explain your actions." Richard stepped forward, unintimidated. "We didn't corrupt it. We improved it. Would you like to see what your inefficient ship can do now?" The aliens followed them into the control room, where the human team demonstrated their modifications. They showed how they'd harnessed the excess energy, how they'd combined their technologies, and finally, their breakthrough with the spacetime anchor. "Impossible," the alien leader declared, studying the readings. "This unit was incapable of achieving space manipulation." "Not the way you were trying to do it," Richards explained. "You wanted to break through space. We learned to work with it instead. Here, let me show you." He activated the hybrid systems. The crystal core pulsed with energy, and the space-time anchor formed, stable, controlled, and very much real. The aliens watched in silence as their instruments confirmed what they were seeing. "Your modifications are irregular," one of the alien scientists noted. "Imperfect. They should not function." Miller smiled. "That's the thing about humans. We don't need things to be perfect. We just need them to work." The alien leader moved closer to the control panel, studying the human additions with new interest. "You have achieved what we could not, by embracing imperfection. By embracing possibility," Richards corrected. "Every flaw, every bit of excess energy, every irregular reading. They're all opportunities if you look at them the right way." The aliens conferred among themselves in their own language, their movements becoming less rigid as they discussed what they'd seen. Finally, their leader turned back to the humans. "We have much to learn from each other," it announced. "Your adaptability has shown us alternatives we never considered. Perhaps perfection is not the only path to advancement." As the aliens began examining the modified ship in detail, asking questions and studying the human innovations, Miller turned to Richards with a grin. "Well," he said, "I guess one species' trash really is another species' treasure." Richards watched as human and alien engineers started sharing ideas, already talking about new possibilities for combining their technologies. "You know what the best part is," he replied. "We didn't just fix their ship, we might have fixed their whole way of thinking." Outside, the two ships sat side by side, one perfect and untouched, the other modified but innovative. Together, they represented the beginning of a new era, where human creativity and alien precision could work together to achieve what neither could do alone. The future, it seemed, didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be possible. 5 years had passed since the day humans turned alien trash into a breakthrough. The research facility had grown into a sprawling complex where humans and aliens worked side by side, learning from each other's strengths and weaknesses. The original modified ship, now nicknamed Phoenix by the human crew, sat in a place of honor in the main hangar. Its hybrid systems had become the template for a whole new class of vessels that combined the best of both civilizations' approaches to technology. Captain Miller stood before a graduating class of mixed human and alien engineers, all eager to work on the new hybrid ships. The sight would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. The perfectly posed aliens sitting next to the more casual humans, all focused on the same goal. "When we found that abandoned ship," Miller began, "we didn't just find technology. We found a way to bridge two very different ways of thinking. The aliens taught us precision and efficiency. We taught them creativity and adaptation. In orbit above Earth, dozens of hybrid ships were under construction. Their sleek hulls combined alien geometry with human practicality, each one slightly different as engineers experimented with new ideas. Tom Richards, now the head of the Joint Species Engineering Division, worked in his lab with both human and alien assistants. They had learned to complement each other perfectly, the aliens' precise calculations balanced by human intuition and creativity. "Look at this," said one of his alien colleagues, pointing to a new energy reading. Where once they would have rejected such an unexpected result, now they saw it as an opportunity to learn something new. "The power core is producing a harmonic frequency we didn't predict," the alien noted. "In the past, we would have shut it down for recalibration." Richard smiled. "And now?" "Now we will study it," the alien replied, already adjusting instruments to analyze the pattern. "Perhaps it will lead to another breakthrough." In another part of the facility, Dr. Foster led a team developing new applications for the spacetime anchor technology. What had started as a way to create stable points for space travel had evolved into dozens of unexpected uses. "The aliens' pursuit of perfection gave us incredible tools," she explained to a visiting dignitary. "But it was human adaptability that showed us how to use those tools in ways nobody expected." The original alien civilization had changed too. Their once rigid society had begun to embrace new ideas, learning from humanity's example that imperfection could lead to innovation. Their disposal sites, once filled with defective technology, were now centers of research and experimentation. Back in the main hangar, Miller finished his speech to the graduating class. "Look around you," he said, gesturing to the hybrid ships. "These vessels represent more than just technological advancement. They represent what we can achieve when we combine different ways of thinking." The students, human and alien alike, applauded. Many of them had grown up with this new partnership between species, seeing it not as something extraordinary, but as the natural way of things. After the ceremony, Richards joined Miller near the Phoenix. The old ship's hybrid systems still worked perfectly, a testament to the day humans proved that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Miller asked, looking at the bustling facility around them. Richards shook his head. "All I wanted to do was make that ship work. Instead, we ended up changing two civilizations." A group of young engineers walked past, humans and aliens chatting easily about their latest projects. Above them, through the hangar's transparent roof, they could see the new hybrid ships in orbit, their designs evolving with each generation. "You know what the real legacy is," Miller said thoughtfully. "It's not the technology. It's the idea that different approaches can work together. That perfection isn't always the answer." Richards nodded, watching as another team prepared a hybrid ship for launch. "The aliens taught us how to be more precise. We taught them how to embrace possibilities. Together, we're achieving things neither of us could have done alone." The Phoenix stood silently behind them, its modified systems still running after all these years. Not perfect, but exactly what it needed to be. A reminder that sometimes the best treasures are the ones others throw away.